we're gonna have a history lesson. Yay! Oh, hello again. Not. Not yay. Hello. Today we're gonna talk about the stolen generations of Australia. I know, you've already talked about this for years at school and stuff, but this is for the sake of knowledge. So, deal with it. So, anyway, the Stolen Generations was a time in history after Christopher Columbus had come to Australia with the first fleet. Hello, I am the first fleet. So, what happened was, when the British found out that there were inhabitants, i.e. Aboriginals, of the so-called Terra Nullius, or Australia, they also saw their unique ways of life and culture, which was very different to the way the British lived. I mean, they was civilized, man. So, with the thought of giving Aboriginals a better life, they started to snatch Aboriginal children from their very own families under the assimilation policy. Yeah, say it after me. Assimilation. Assimilation policy. Well done. Basically, this is the government's allowance to do this. Well, now I hear you asking, why and how on earth is this important? Okay, to answer your question, imagine this. You were having a fun time, a good time with your family, and when it was time to sleep and no one was looking, some Englishmen came up to you and took you far away from your family. They also took all of your siblings and you never got to see them again. What would you feel like? Exactly. Now imagine this happened to 100,000 innocent children. Now do you understand why this is important? Next point, please. Okay. Let's have some more detail on what exactly happened. Well, to start off, it took place in Australia. Duh. And it happened between the years 1869 to 1969. Gee, that's a whole century. Now, who was involved? It was the Aboriginal children, of course, the generation that was on this very land before us. Anyways, you may be thinking, what was the point of all this chaos of a century, taking 100,000 children away from their families anyway? I mean, what's the point, man? Well, it was a government strategy to wipe out the Aboriginal population and to brainwash the minds of the people, saying that it was to bring them a better life. Did you know that many of the children were stripped off their names and given a number that the English people were to call them? Isn't that sad? So, what happened before this assimilation policy? Well, the children and families of the Aborigines people were already being treated very badly. For example, their houses were being taken away from them, and whenever they went back to their rightful land, they were told, this is someone else's land, and usually an Englander or a convict, and that they had to go somewhere else. And whenever they tried to get their land back, they were severely punished. You see, since the British men thought they had a right over them, and that they were higher in status, now that's pretty mean. While all this was already going on, the government didn't like the way the Aboriginals looked and lived, so they tried taking away the children of Aboriginal families and giving them to foster parents and British people to take care of them as their own, and the kids were forced to reject their culture and change their name. See here, reject your culture, your name is John. No offense to anyone whose name is John, okay? They were told to reject their name and change their name reject their culture, and all these other things. And there we go. The assimilation policy came along. The importance of this event is critical. I can explain that importance in a few sentences. Think about it. If you take 50 to 100 children from a certain community, any community of people, what would happen? It would be a pretty miserable place. No children to tell stories, no children to teach, no children to brighten your day, no cuteness, just plain miserable. No children. Many people try to rise up to peace, but in some cases they were killed. As you can see, a lot of mayhem and sadness was tolerated by the English people until 1969, when the removal of Aboriginal children from their mothers and family was stopped, but in some cases it continued until 1975. This gave Aboriginals the right to keep their children and raise them in the culture and the ways of the Aboriginal people. Finally, some justice! So, how are Indigenous people still affected today? Well, many are still mourning over their losses, and many are telling stories to people. Stories that are heartbreaking and really sad. But on the positive side, there are many healing organizations. So let's go away. Healing organizations that are helping people, merely Aboriginals, get out of traumas and sadness. There are also a lot of YouTube channels illustrating stories by real Aboriginals. There are many healing organizations that are helping people get out of traumas and sadness. There are also many YouTube channels illustrating stories by real Aboriginals, such as the Healing Foundation. Now, what have we learned? We learned that the Stolen Generation was a sad time in history, when more than 100,000 Aboriginal children were taken away from their families because the British government wanted to wipe out the Aboriginal race under the allowance of the government's assimilation policy between the years 1869 to 1969. We have also learned that many of the children taken were given a different English name or number, and that the children would be punished if they were caught talking in the tribal language. We learned that what events led up to the Stolen Generations, such as land being taken away from them, and pointless murder occurred. We also learned the importance of the Stolen Generation. We imagined what it would be like without any children in our community, and we also learned how Aboriginal people are still affected today. And last of all, we summarize what we learned. Now, with all this knowledge, you could write a good old essay. Now, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification button, comment, and have a wonderful day. And hey, did you spot the little human saying hi? Go and find it. But if you did, good job. Most people ignore that kind of stuff. So you're special. Anyway, bye-bye.